This is Field Researcher. If you're seeing this message, then I'm probably being eaten by something. I'm recording this message because, despite all previous indication that the far plane is devoid of malevolent entities, I may come into contact with something. There's something in the other room, and I don't know what it is, but I'm no coward. I have my equipment set to auto-transmit. If you're getting this, you're getting this. I just know it. You have to. Oh, is this GOLBO? Hello, GOLBO. Surprising to see one of you outside of a tub in the wild. Must be quite the rebel. Rock on, you trendsetter, you. You know, I've always wondered what goes up on in there, behind that stare and those tears. Guess we're not all ready for that.
Hello. It's been a while. I've been having a blast levitating around in a local puddle of primordial soup. It was very refreshing, but the experience floating around minding my own business like so much protoplasm really brought to mind a certain online web series I really want to talk about. Zooliminology, a series I consider to be one of the freshest and most comfy web series to take great inspiration from the analog media trend and the Backrooms. Oh, and before we start, let me slip into a form more fitting for the topic. Much better. Our story begins not on YouTube, but on Tumblr, where, on August 28th, 2023, our plane was blessed with the first documented sighting of what can only be described as a herd of wild anomalies. Over time, this newly christened Zooliminology Tumblr blog would continue posting more and more images of strange, surreal landscapes with captions giving trickles of insight into what we were beholding. What were once very sparse words and descriptions would over time change to resemble research notes, albeit very brief, like smuggled excerpts or footnotes, each corresponding to varying, different surreal images, landscapes, and of course, creatures. Strange, unique beings in strange, myriad places with an ethereal quality, entries sparse and with little information or insight into what exactly was going on. But all of this would change with the introduction of a YouTube channel, one that would introduce us to a world familiar, yet different in just the right ways. This would be our first proper entry in the Zooliminology project. But before we get there, I've yet to explain what exactly is going on, and who better than the project's own briefing officer.
Hello, esteemed researcher. We at the Zooliminology Project are glad to have you here. You have been selected for your aptitude in your field of insert field here. We are the only organization in the world researching phenomena in the plane of reality just next door. Every day, someone or something disappears from our world with no trace, only to reappear a few minutes or hours later. Though this often gets mistaken with someone just being forgetful. Remember the time you lost your remote? You didn't lose it. It simply fell between the cracks of reality, only to return moments later. Or it didn't. It's hard to tell. Less commonly, anomalies will leak into unpopulated urban areas, manifesting as strange creatures or bent space, only to later disappear without warning. Only a quarter of these reports come from drunk homeless people. With us, you'll get to dive into the heart of these strange occurrences, You'll do this by delving into the place where missing objects go and once reality-bending phenomena come, the far plane. While you have been hired based on your belief in parallel universes and the unexplainable, you likely still don't know what the far plane is. The far plane is a plane of existence located outside of our known universe. It is an expanse of matter that takes the form of man-made interiors and occasionally exteriors, mimicking human-modified areas. This can take the appearance of hallways, rooms, schools, hotels, anything you can think of. There's probably already something in the far plane that resembles it.
This is the world of Zooliminology, hosted on the Quiet J YouTube channel and Zooliminology Tumblr account, in a world inspired by the popular depictions of the Backrooms, but made significantly less horrifying, opting instead to focus on the surrealist elements inherent to a place outside of standard reality, elements that only a place made purely of liminal spaces could offer. The plane is akin to a funhouse mirror of our world, the natural landscape mimicking human constructs and terrestrial flora, the plants themselves not composed of normal plant matter, which has earned them the name pseudoflora, while the life forms that call the far plane home have not necessarily evolved for survival, but rather to complement the surreality of the far plane. As of the creation of this video, Zooliminology's main series is composed of 5 videos and an upload of the series soundtrack, which is very good by the way, go check it out. The series is still largely in its infancy, but it holds some of the most potential and genuine heart and care and uniqueness I've seen in quite some time in an online web series. Also, it's like super chill and I'm like a big fan of that. The series takes inspiration from SCP in the main series protagonists, the Zooliminology researchers, with how a government-backed organization is tasked with investigating, containing, and protecting/conserving the far plane and its entities. Although, the trope is subverted similarly to how it parodies the Backrooms in analog horror, when instead of the hyper-elite specialized task forces and morally ambiguous and at times downright malicious command structures of the SCP mythos, Zooliminology opts for a more chill approach. And it's not only that, but the budget for this extraplanar excursion very clearly resembles a cardboard box filled with IOUs and a half-chewed stick of gum. Don't be fooled, there are still large government entities in play here, and the far plane and its nature are still treated as highly sensitive information, breaching the sanctity of which is punished by, quote, termination and banishment to the farthest depths of the far plane. However, the actual day-to-day procedures are largely mundane, the staff and operations mirroring that of zookeeper researchers exploring and documenting new and exciting wildlife and environments, a sharp contrast to the high-stakes, reality-bending, existential fate-of-the-world happenings that other similar media deals with. But who needs me to describe it when I can simply highlight this with the first video in the series, GOLBO Care Guide.
Welcome to Standard Care Procedures for Extraplanar Entities. Do you know what this entity is? It is called a GOLBO. It is an extraplanar entity originating from an area outside of standard reality known as the far plane. We will go over the GOLBO's physical characteristics and care procedures.
The video continues on, describing the physiology of the GOLBO, listing off its unique features such as how it is boneless, possesses only a single eye, and is without organs or blood, being similar in anatomy to a microorganism or a microbe rather than a traditional creature like a dog, although there is some passing resemblance. Further information is given in regards to how it should be handled, and how its enclosure should be constructed in order to ensure comfortability for the subject entities. In this case, GOLBOs are placed in bathtubs full of vegetation, with their eye facing towards the faucet. In the context of the wider series, the format stays largely the same. However, the appeal of the videos largely comes not from the narrative, nor any large changes in format or plot progression, but from the discoveries made regarding these creatures, their interesting physiologies, the weird and alien environments they come from, and how the Zooliminology team handles caring for these beings. A highlight can be found in the Longlegs Care Guide, which I will play for you now.
Next, we will go over this entity's containment procedures. To mimic the entity's natural environment, we will place it in an empty, windowless room with a single cinder block inside. We will test the entity's reaction to its new habitat. After more observation, we have added another cinder block. After more observation, we have added another cinder block. After additional observation, we have added another cinder block. After further observation, we have added yet another cinder block. We cannot add any more as it will strain the Zooliminology project's budget. After more observation, we have decided to add a cement sphere from target that was obtained in a classified manner. The enclosure is now adequate for the entity. Longlegs do not require food or water to persist. To ensure its well-being, it is important to maintain its enclosure weekly. This includes cleaning and arranging cinder blocks to provide enrichment. However, it is strongly advised against moving the cement sphere, despite the potential morale increase, as it could cause harm to researchers and the entity. Additionally, do not the Longlegs.
In the wise words of this commenter, friendship with analog horror ended. Analog Silly is my new best friend now. Other videos similar to this one document the findings of the Zooliminology research team as introduced in the Orientation Guide. Although fewer in number, these videos are extremely high in quality, documenting the different natural environments of these different beings, creatures, and with some very silly occurrences and stories attached to these supernatural beings.
Our table!
And the bumblings of the researchers trying to come to understand them. The creature design and environments made up for this universe are absolutely gorgeous, at times with very similar yet twisted architecture and geometry, and at other times is essentially alien, yet with this ethereal beauty to them. Architects filled with glowing flying fish, wide open grass fields littered with wind turbines spinning on, powering nothing while these creatures float gracefully in the sky. Festively decorated houses in the middle of nowhere, defended by Leviathan of festive lights that is... This series as a whole is a breath of fresh air to the online analog aesthetic in a way that I feel can only really be appreciated if I were to give you a bit of context. A history lesson. No, wait, no, don't skip, it's insightful in everything. Oh, you didn't leave.
Wie cool ist das bitte?
The idea of horror was invented in... Okay, not that far back. But honestly, to some of you it may as well be, but trust me, I have a point with this. Since the beginning of the internet, online horror has been dominated by the online web series, its most recent trending iteration manifesting in the form of analog horror. It's been going strong for nearly half a decade, and you likely already know the gist, but if not, I'm sure you can piece it as we continue. The format originated from the series Local 58 in 2015, and later popularized by disgraced artist Squimpus McGrimpus' Freddy Five Night VHS series. But it was not until Alex Kister's Mandela catalog that the genre would truly explode into the mainstream. The genre's roots stem from the theatrical found footage genre. These pieces of media were crafted with the intent of giving you the illusion that they were recordings, instructions, and documentation found in the real world that reveals the details of a mystery, a plot that you as the viewer are not directly involved with, at least unless indicated otherwise. When the genre first emerged with the Blair Witch Project, it became a worldwide sensation because this prospect of watching supposedly real footage of the supernatural, of the horrors and mysteries of the world outside your everyday life, was an incredibly alluring yet terrifying concept. As an observer, the appeal of this form of horror was not in the immediate threat of danger, but this creeping dread that comes with the implication that these supernatural monstrosities exist in the real world, that your life could be upended at any time by some monster or demon you could have no chance of knowing about otherwise. And that is the appeal of found footage, the appeal of analog horror. The idea that the monstrosities put to screen truly exist, whether as a hidden truth or public service announcement for the sake of public good. But that's only one half of the equation. Liminal spaces are special in how they exude a profound sense of wrongness, despite the lack of any clear danger. It's similar to the uncanny valley effect in People, except where the phenomenon is shifted towards a place rather than a person. Liminal images tend to contain images of places designed by humans for lots of human interaction and presence. School hallways, subways, parking lots, and the like. However, when made devoid of life, these places are put under a new context, and they begin to take on otherworldly qualities in its emptiness. It is off from what we usually expect these places to look like. It takes on a strange, surreal quality, seeing these places intended to be full of people going about their business being so empty. It would be this liminality and the uncanny effect that this genre of images had on people that inspired the creation of the Backrooms as a concept on 4chan in 2019. The Backrooms.
Okay, the Backrooms. Dingle, dangle, dingle, dangle.
Took the idea of these liminal spaces and added together another dimension of direct threat and horror to it. The idea of being trapped in one of these liminal spaces, your only companion, the unending, maddening buzzing of the fluorescent lights until you eventually starve or get caught. This premise is inherently unnerving. Now, the Backrooms has been in the public consciousness for quite some time, a little over half a decade now actually. But what really popularized the concept was the Backrooms series by Kane Pixels, a series started in 2022 that took the Backrooms original concept and applied the analog found footage horror style to it, flavored with that SCP Foundation style government-backed research and development. The series is one of the very best in the analog horror scene, or hell, online horror scene in general, being produced with excellent writing, cinematography, animations, etc. If you haven't seen the series yourself, I'd strongly recommend a watch. It's pretty good. Or don't, I'm not your dad. But remember when I brought up found footage in relation to analog horror? Well, these two forms of media have very important shared traits that make them very popular for budding creatives. It's the combination of the novelty of a recently created fresh format for presenting your story, the minimal resource requirements to make them, and a demand for more from audiences that typically leads to many copycats, with often mixed results. It was incredibly enticing for new creatives after the release of Blair Witch to make similar found footage movies. The accessibility of the format and the potential to make a worldwide hit lended itself to an influx of a lot of would-be Blair Witches. The same is the case with analog horror. It's popular, and creating it is incredibly accessible. The first episode of the Mandela catalog was created on Alex Kister's phone, the images edited together with pictures taken on his phone and edited in the photo app. You can't really get much more accessible than that. Well, actually, you can. Because while not everyone can edit an image and put together a video, I know for a fact that anyone can write a text document. Back during the age of the early internet, people were very, very gullible when it came to what was real and what was not. It was very much a time of, the internet said so, therefore it must be true. It was the time of the chain letter, of the creepypasta, of the ARG. And it was around this time when a post on 4chan's X board birthed the very first SCP Foundation article. A standout entry featuring a nameless statue created by one Izumi Kato. It ultimately culminated in the creation of the SCP Wiki, a collaborative writing project that created a universe of gods and monsters far beyond the scope of the original 4chan post. But its significance in this video is in its role as a popular source of inspiration for horror creators, analog and not, with how common it is for secret organizations to contend with the supernatural, with varying effectiveness. Yes, I know things like Men in Black and other properties done it first, but people typically take inspiration from SCP the most. Now, while SCP itself is not related to the main topic of this video, its impacts on the online collaborative writing landscape is. SCP is commonly known as the largest, or at least the most well-known online collaborative writing project there is, and as such it is essentially the blueprint that future collaborative creative writing projects would follow, for better or worse. In the case of the Backrooms, I feel that it leans closer to the worst category, simply because I feel as if the creative writing side of the Backrooms tends to follow SCP way too closely in how its supernatural elements are presented, be it entities, the floors, or the societies of people living within this space. The Backrooms as a concept stuck out because of its ties to liminality, a feeling tied to the mystical, ethereal quality defined by the lack of presence, a lack of people where there should be people. And in my opinion, the Backrooms, as defined by the greater Backrooms community, strays away from that initial charm and appeal in favor of turning this mysterious, unsettling yet ethereal place into a big maze full of monsters that only really exist to mess with, harm, torture, or kill humans. Now, that isn't to say that harmful entities are the problem, but rather that what they represent in cases such as these. There isn't this sense that this is a place that exists outside of the context of being a horror scenario. It only exists to make humans suffer, and in a cosmic sense, that can be existentially horrifying, but also somewhat immersion-breaking in my case, because when I read about things like Pinhead or similar monsters, I don't see an entity native to this strange alien place. I see a writer creating a monster with the sole purpose of scaring people with little regard to how this monster fits into the wider ecosystem of the Backrooms. If you must make a monster, I suggest that at the very least make its design complement the liminal feelings of the environment that it is native to, because otherwise I see a monster designed by people to inhabit a fantasy land made to be scary, and it breaks my immersion. A good example of this is Kane Pixel's Backrooms Squiggle Man. The design is very simple, and its backstory is shrouded in mystery, but what's important is that the design complements the environment that it's native to in ways that most entities don't. The wiring the monster is composed of reminds you of the wiring needed to power all the electronics and fluorescent lighting within the Backrooms. The monster can be interpreted to be all sorts of things, like if the Backrooms itself has taken notice of its inhabitants and creates a form out of its own mass reminiscent of what is there, which in this case of the Kane Pixels Backroom story is a human. The original Backrooms post did have a more horror-focused theme. This I can't ignore, but in my opinion, I feel as if the overfixation on the horror aspect of these liminal spaces, or at the very least, focused on the horror without taking into account the unique aspects of the Backrooms that separates it from its contemporaries, has taken away from the setting in a way, making it more generic as a setting instead of enriching it as something different. Just like how a lot of SCP writers often try to outdo each other in a contest of who has the most powerful monster, the people who create Backrooms content, I feel, follow the same approach, at the cost of having largely abandoned the initial intrigue that came with these liminal images in favor of having these horror monsters and societies of backroom survivors, and these differently named and numbered levels and threats, like it's the setting of a tween-targeted adventure novel. Now, I'm of the opinion that being burnt out on a genre or type of media is generally not something that exists. What does exist, though, is simply overexposure to the mediocre, consumption without variety. It's like
The same vibe!
Tropes.
The same vibe!
Tropes. Analog horror.
They play the same vibe!
Tropes.
The same vibe!
Tropes.
The same vibe!
Tropes. Analog horror.
They play the same fucking.
There is a reason why people say things are generic. It's not because the genre in and of itself is inherently bad, but that there is some over-reliance on common genre tropes, a pre-established property, lacking exploration and storytelling structure, something like that that makes your series fresh or stand out. And that's the crux of why I made this video. To show off a series that I feel deviates in a way so simple yet so fresh that I can't help but gush about it to you. This is what I feel is what largely separates this series from pretty much every other analog horror or analog media series like it. Zooliminology isn't just another analog series. It's kind of this breakaway. Not quite an evolution or an upgrade, to use gaming terms, but more akin to a side grade, an expansion, maybe even extra content or free DLC, an alternative way of doing things. There will always be great analog horror or online horror media like Vita Carnis and Gemini Home Entertainment, and that's amazing. However, I feel as if the digital media landscape can do more than just exploring interesting or unique premises through the lens of exclusively horror. A lot of the times, creatives tend to get stuck in the tropes of a genre or mediascape they want to participate in. What's the most popular is oftentimes the most emulated. But it takes people who explore different possibilities with the medium and different ways to express their creativity to open the door to more varied means of expression and storytelling, even if it's something as silly and goofy as Zooliminology. The closest thing that I can liken the series to has to be Angel Hair, who I believe was one of the first to do this, using the common premise of the haunted childhood miniseries and subverting it into a more heartwarming narrative. Still in the realms of the supernatural, but not expressed through its darkest aspects. Though they are still present, they are not the main focus. And this sentiment has been echoed by the creator of the series in their video, drawing Backrooms creatures, but not scary. Speed paint!
What is Zooliminology, you may ask? Well, it's my own spin on something that you may have never heard of, called the Backrooms. As you don't know, because you don't know what
The backshots?
is. The format has been completely and utterly saturated with scary wiremen and smile emojis that are supposed to be spooky and scary and make you shiver your timbers. Well, we don't do that here. Instead, we make goofy monsters that have no creativity put into them and are just blobs 98% of the time.
Zoolim is all about the wonder and the mystery and the mysterious, uncovering new and strange fantastical places and meeting all these weird silly guys. Zooliminology started as this experimental art project, choosing to be unique in how openly, unashamedly, and non-complex it is while still maintaining this level of intrigue that doesn't stem from the idea of what monster could be behind the corner, but instead, what wonders could be over that hill? There are all these mysterious questions swirling in your head with every discovery, like, why does the fireplane try to mimic human architecture? Or the question of if it's actually the other way around, that we as people are actually subconsciously mimicking the fireplane's constructs. Things like that This element of existential pondering, not quite dread, is this type of thing that makes media like Zooliminology really contribute to the online media space. It is an expansion to our avenues of creation that has been largely hyper-focused on the horrific, when even in other online creative spaces like SCP, some of the most interesting pieces of media and writing aren't even horror-focused at all, such as me, a toaster that people can only refer to as in the first person. I'm such a good SCP entry not because I'm scary or some kind of big monster, but because I'm something so mundane yet fantastical all the same. I'm fantastical, yet ultimately benign in a way that suggests that the wider world doesn't revolve exclusively around scaring people. That part exists, yes, but it's things like this that come to remind us that it isn't all that's out there. Because the universe is a terrible place, but sometimes there is beauty in it. Sometimes you can walk outside, meet your GOLBO, and you vibe for a while. And I think that's cool. Thank you for watching. Your viewership is a big help and support for this channel, and you simply being here is a huge boon in and of itself. But if you feel like leaving a tip, then drop a like, only if you want. But if a like isn't enough, I have a Patreon. If you want to further support me and my continued ability to make videos and consume food and draw in breath, do it there. A warm shout out to my Patreon patrons Azir Z and Percussion. Thank you so much and sticking around despite my long ass wait time between videos. Well, the video's mostly ended. The rest of the runtime is mostly going to be me making an announcement for my content going forwards. Oops. And well, here's the thing. I'm actually really busy in real life, so I don't think I can continue making as many or at least super high quality paintings or stuff like that for my videos. So I'm going to have to downscale things like my editing, and I'm sacrificing some quality for quantity with more MS Paint doodles and the like when I make new videos. I have a video half written, needing some proofreading and maybe some more rescripting, but expect another one in a few weeks or so, just to put the pressure on me off a bit as I try to get my affairs in order. I'm also planning on streaming my work more often so I can get some connection with the community and maybe have a bit of fun working again. I don't really have a schedule out, but look out for something like that though. Bye for now.